Right? So this is just as the wave as it goes on. We're going to got to break it down and look at it a little more closely to see, but that's the general overview. So basically every 12 years as Jupiter returns, and it's the beginning of a new phase of understanding your life, and you're getting a new assessment of where you are, where you've come from, what you can do, where you can expand from here, what's next, and whether you're going to do it right or wrong. Everybody does this, so why shouldn't I do that? Jupiter puzzle. But usually experience creates wisdom, but sometimes repression, other things, other difficulties, like so. Why? When you know, in Christianity, they said the wise men were following the star to find Christ, to find who was born under the star. So they're following the star. And the star was really a conjunction of Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Now, scientists have tried to disprove it because they looked at the date, and actually when they came together, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn were conjunct in the sky. And they actually made a little triangle when they came together. They didn't come exactly together. But in the ephemeris of those days, which were very generalized, they wouldn't have had very accurate ephemeris. By the time they had the information and put it together, seeing them that close together would look like they would be one star in the sky. And that star was a mixture of energy, wisdom, and responsibility. It really was somebody who was born under that would be the king of kings. They would have wisdom aligned with Jupiter, with Saturn, with responsibility, guiding the actions. Wow, that's part of the mystery of the Star of Bethlehem. Many controversies around this, but many people try to disprove it and that, but that's the initial astrological theory of looking. If you're going to follow the star and you see something that really looks wonderful, wow, I have to think about it. I wonder who's born then. So a lot depends on what aspects are made to that multiple conjunction when it happens. There's a lot of research people who are born with Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions every 20 years. You know, there's certain cycles that go on there, but there's not that many looked around to see Mars, Jupiter, Saturn conjunctions. You have to, every 20 years, you have to look to see if the Mars comes up there. And so we'll experience these at the Star of Bethlehem. We'll experience that Mars, Jupiter, Saturn conjunction every 20 years or so in our lifetime. Everybody will. It's how it happens out in the world, that people are born in different phases of it. But when we're starting with the cycle, let's just pick up this first cycle figure first. Okay. It's really just taking the chart and dividing it into a wave instead of looking at it as a circle. So it's really going around the circle of the chart, but we see it as the wave, and then the wave repeats, and the wave repeats, and you have cycles. And so we have the full cycle, like age 0 to 12. Well, it's divided at age 6. Well, that's a very convenient division because that's the 6 years at home and the 6 years of primary school. You know, it might be a little bit earlier, but it's around from 0 to 6, 6 to 12. So you're understanding and expanding based on where you started with, the body you have, the strength you have, the family you have, what you can do, what you can't do. You're learning from your experiences the first 6 years, but 6 is a big expansion. You're coming from home and you're starting to be influenced more by other teachers and other people and friends and people that start to cultivate and affect your understanding. And against that background, sometimes your own understanding at home is kind of sucks. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. And you don't have anything to compare to, but it's developing in you. The attitude to school. Well, it makes a big difference if by six years old, Jupiter's opposing Jupiter, and you look at the first 6 years you had, and during that years, your parents split up, they're on their own, or somebody died, or things happen, or you had a sick brother or sister, and there were all kinds of difficulties in that time, or your parents split up and you were traveling and you never had a stable place. By the time you go to school, wow, like I never realized I grew up poor until I got to school. When other people had a lot of things I didn't have. I didn't really care, but it was the first time I was able to run into that, to see that. There was enough to do in the meantime. But this adjustment at 6, grade 1 teachers will run into people ready to learn and ready to expand. They're really guiding the next outer, like the inner personal cycle and then the outer social cycle of the Jupiter whole cycle. So the first 6 years is how you're learning from the world you came up in. Now, how many of us get to 40 years later, 50 years later, we're blaming our parents for what happened to us when we're 3 or when we're 6 for why we're so messed up now? A lot of psychology, a lot of things are based on, well, that caused that. That's why it never worked out. I never had a chance. Not true, but that's what started the understanding going in a twisted way or difficult way or locking in certain ways. You know, it's a vast spectrum. Who's got a good understanding, who's not, and at what times. Everybody's going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to do wrong things. Everyone's going to do right things. But if you're a little kid and you get battered for all your wrong things or anything you do, well, I grew up in an alcoholic, violent situation. I got knocked around all the time, so I was totally afraid of my father. You know, or I let's just say I learned how to navigate to stay away from him as much as possible. But that was part of my understanding growing up. Yeah, it had effects later on, but that was my side. Yeah, just everyone has their own understanding. Okay, but this 6 is a big turning point. But then you get through you're going to school, you're making your friends or not friends, you're going to school through 6 to 12. So for me, I grew up in the difficult, violent, alcoholic home situation, but I went out and played out in nature and in the river and places. I had a lot of other experiences that balanced that. Thank goodness. Jupiter expression. From 6 to 12, in all my years of school, I always did something that got in mischief. I got the strap in grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, all the way through school. I'd always push the limits and run into harsh teachers putting in harsher penalties. So my Jupiter's in Scorpio. So it starts from whatever sign it's in, has its attitude. You have your Jupiter in your natal chart, it's growing up. So, but we're seeing the numbers and the cycles easy to see. Making it personal, filling each of these numbers with experience makes this whole thing come alive. It's like a DNA structure in life. So from 6 to 12, you go, but 6 to 9, by 9 years old, it's changing. It like, even if you think how much exposure do you have to TV, what movies you watch, what things you do, there's certain restrictions or limits between your 6 and 9, certain amount of innocence, but between 9 and 12, it's opening up further. You can't just maintain what's being done at home because people are running into other things and learning more things. They're expanding, they're doing more, and they want to do more. They want to go places, want to do things, they want to expand what they're doing and learn from it. I mean, Jupiter's hungry because it wants to learn more. It wants to understand better. If you had something wrong, you want to try and prove you can make it better or do other things to put a better perspective on it. If you had good understanding, you still want to say, oh, what else can I do? Where can I go? So it's moving you forward. But really, it's the Mars experiences that's making you, that's giving you, collecting experiences every day, and the Jupiter is trying to regurgitate them. So basically, it takes 12 years for a cycle of understanding to click in. So it takes us 12 years to understand who we are and where we come from. So by the time, see this better later on, but by the time so something difficult happens to you in your life, there was a violent year, there was an explosive year, or you failed school, or you got in trouble with law, or some dramatic thing played out, you got raped, or you got beat up or something, it's going to take you 12 years to understand and digest what happened, to assimilate what happened. 6 years, you're immediately reacting to understanding that it happened and trying to compare it. The next 6 years, you're seeing the social implications of it, or you're completing it. And seeing 12 years later, you've completed that cycle of understanding. So we're only understanding now what we were doing 12 years ago. And we're still working on what's happened in between. So generally, we think we're 12 years younger than we are. We understand where we were. We can see without understanding now where we were 12 years ago. But in between, we're still working on it. It's still regurgitating, digesting, assimilating. The cycle itself is simple, but the puzzle of Jupiter is profound. So by the 12, you're ready to start. You're probably in your last year of grade school, getting ready for high school, but you're playing sports, you're being active, you're doing things much more socially functional, but this age from 12 to 24 represents your educational cycle. So 12 to 18 really is half the Jupiter cycle. It's high school. But this is also kind of parallel, like the whole cycle of Jupiter is just a little bit less than half a cycle of Saturn. So from 12 to 14, when Saturn opposites in Saturn, is the puberty years. So really it starts with the Jupiter expansion around 12, and it comes out to the responsibilities and the vulnerabilities with the Saturn opposition Saturn. So if the understanding is negative by 12 and the experiences start coming up by 14, you have a very disassociated person. Whereas if it's been really good, you have someone's working within the system. Some people thrive going through their school. Some people, I learned from adversity in schools. To me, schools were never a safe place. There were always gangs, bullies, and violent teachers, and even more violent principals. So I would never have ever gone to a teacher to ask for help. It's more, how do you get away from them? So this is just my hang-ups, my stuff. But at 12, this shift is coming, and everybody, by 12, you can't control the kids. They got to see different movies. You can watch different things. You just don't have to keep in fairy tales anymore. They're going to be interested in doing. They're going to be reading things, going places, doing things. They can walk to school on their own and go on without you. They're having to be more responsible, and yet there's different vulnerabilities around it. There's different ways of doing this. This is the shift from 12 to 15. By 15, you're into your Saturn opposition. You've just had your Saturn opposition Saturn. Your understanding is almost at odds with your father's, with where you grew up from the Eagles or where you grew up from. And you're beginning to develop your social skills, or who you know, or what team, or what group, or what's real. And your understanding is linked up to that. And it depends on how successful or unsuccessful, whether you're fitting in, whether you're not fitting in, whether you have social skills or not social skills, which you can see in the natal chart, what you're predisposed to. Then you can begin to imagine how this plays out. By 15 to 18, you're getting more, you're into high school. Well, this whole period, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, it's your high school. It's putting up the extra homework, it's learning more, it's taking in way more information, not only about school, just at 15, for example, 12 to 18, so many things are happening physically for young girls, for boys, so many things are happening physically and being explained socially or anti-socially. There's so much texture and understanding or misunderstanding developed those times. We want to prove our own understanding. We want to follow what we understand. We want to try and go on it. And it's, if you understand, well, why shouldn't I try sex? Why shouldn't I try? All of these things are part of this puzzle from 12 to 18. You know, now, like, it would be interesting to see, I don't know if there's records on it, at what age people have their first sexual experiences. You know, so in today's world, probably the majority of people will have their first sexual experiences between 12 and 18. We might like to think between 15 and 18, but then there's some people who do, there's some people who don't. 18 is a big adjustment year. You're finishing your high school. Did you do well enough? Will you go to college? Will you go to university? Will you go to college? Will you go out to work? Will you disassociate? Will you drop out? Will you take off? What do you do? This big adjustment's coming at 18 to decide which way the rest of your education is going. Whether it's from the school of hard knocks, whether it's going out into the world, whether it's having a baby, oh boy, it's changed. So many things happen between this 18 and 24 stage. And it really differentiates people. Some people, they get out of school, they get to university, they've managed, they got support, they get through university. They, you know, by the time they're getting to 21 or so, they're getting the job that's lined up to the university or not, and they're extending from that education. You know, like if you're going to be a doctor or a really successful person, you're going to be studying till you're about 24, or up to then before you really got it settled, before you finished and got set up in the new business. So